Okay, I wanted to just go over some properties of Excel, and just to give you a sort of quick tutorial of Excel, and that you could use it for your problem set, next problem set, or any other classes that it might be useful in. So this is the sheet that's posted on Blackboard, the file, Chapter 12 questions, and this sheet right here deals with question 4 and 5 on page 369, the end of Chapter 12. And I think we did possibly question 3 in class. And this actually, these numbers we said were a typo, and so they have to be changed or altered. But you can go ahead and revise those numbers and try the question on your own. But let's do question 4 and 5 right here. So the question is about Bob's DVDs, and it says that there's a rent of $30,000, and then machines cost $20,000, and the price of the DVD is $25. And it gives you the quantity of DVDs, 0 to 10,000, and then the variable cost from 0 to 150,000. And what we're going to calculate first are the average variables, average totals, and then marginal cost. And for the average variable, we know that the definition for this is just variable cost divided by quantity, right? So if I want to just make sure we get this clear, the AVC is equal to VC divided by quantity. Okay, so we know that definition, and then we know that the ATC is going to be equal to total cost divided by quantity. And then we know the marginal cost is going to be the change in total cost divided by change in quantity. Okay, so those are our important cost concepts for the question. Average variable cost will be variable cost divided by quantity. So the average variable cost depends on the quantity level you produce. So 5,000 divided by 1,000 is going to be 5. So to continue this calculation all the way down the rows, you can just click on the knob here, the corner, the southeast corner of the cell, and your cursor will change, and then double click, and it goes and does the calculation all the way down. So we can see that for that cell, $4, it was, actually I see that now we should try to remove the rounding. So let's do 2 decimal spaces. Okay, so now we have $3, $3.50. Okay. And for the average total cost, it's going to be total cost, which we don't have, but we know we can calculate it by variable cost plus these fixed costs. So the cost of capital, the cost of tools, the cost of machines is going to be our fixed cost, and then we add that to the variable cost, and that's our total cost. We want to divide that, so you notice I can enter up the equation up here as well by quantity, D5. Okay, and so again I can do it this way, and just to make sure that there's no rounding taking place, I want to do 2 decimal places. Okay, good. Okay. Now you're going to see a problem. You should have noticed a problem right away. That the ATC is at a minimum of $3, and it occurs where the AVC is also $3, and that corresponds to the same quantity, which we know just by the nature of the curves, the geometric relationship of the curves, that shouldn't be the case. So there's something probably wrong. And if you double click on here, you'll see that what it's doing is taking the variable cost and it's going to divide by the quantity D7. That's what we want. But notice that it's adding B5 and B6, which we don't want. We want Excel to keep on using the rent and the machines. So what we need to do is go back to our first calculation and put $signs in front of the B3, the B and the 3, and in front of the B and the 4. So it tells Excel to keep on using those cells in the calculation all the way down the rows. Okay. So now, in all these calculations, it's going down the rows, but it keeps on using the B3 and B4 calculations. Okay. Okay. So there's one other thing I want to show you, maybe an easier way to have done this. So we're going to do the marginal cost in a bit, but an easier way to have done this would have been to calculate the total costs. I'll show you. So we'll do the total cost calculation, which is going to be equal to our variable cost plus our fixed cost. And again, we want to keep on using those B3 and B4 cells for our fixed costs, and then do this all the way down. Okay, so again, it's going to do, if we just double click here, we're going to be using the variable costs, and it keeps on using B3 and B4. Okay, so what we could have done, actually delete this, what we could have done is taken our average variable cost calculation and told it to keep on using the quantities when we go to calculate the average total cost. So we know that the average total cost is total cost divided by quantity. We did the total cost here. So what we could have done is when it comes to this cell, actually, what we could have done is use this calculation, basically variable cost divided by quantity, but we just move it over by one column. And so what we could have told Excel is to hold on to column D, just D, and not D5, but just hold on to column D in the calculation. And let's see if this works. Okay, and then I would have gone down, and then I would have pulled it over to total costs. Okay, and then it would have done a calculation for average total costs while changing, moving over to the total cost column, but because I put the $sign in front of D, it keeps on using the D column. Okay, so I didn't put the $sign in front of the 5 because I don't want to stick to that row, but I did put the $sign in front of the D because I want to keep on using the quantity column. Right? So this is a faster way to do the ATC, because once you enter in the equation for the AVC, just to repeat that, once I do the calculation for the AVC, telling Excel to keep on using the D column, I can drag that down and then drag this across, and then it does the calculations for ATC based on just that equation I used for AVC. Okay, so when it comes to the marginal cost, we know how that calculates. We do have the equation down here, change in total cost, divided by change in quantity. So I'm taking this minus the previous total cost, so the change in total cost, one from one to the other, and the corresponding change in quantity. And that calculation is done all the way down. Okay, so we have F5 for this cell, which is I5. I'm doing F5 minus F4 divided by D5 minus D4. Okay, and that comes to a marginal cost of 55. And I want to do that all the way down. And so just make sure that we have some decimals. Yes. Okay. And so then all the way down, we're doing the change in total cost divided by a change in quantity. And we know that there's another definition of marginal cost, actually. So let's just use, this will be marginal cost 1. The other definition of marginal cost we learned in chapter 11, or 12, sorry, is it's going to be equal to change. Let me just do this quicker. Change in variable cost divided by change in quantity. Okay. So just to check our calculations, we could do this, or check our theory, we could do this. The change in variable cost divided by a change in quantity. Okay. And then, yes, we have the same values for either way of calculating the marginal cost. Okay, so the next question is, well, what's the break-even price? The break-even price, we know, is going to be the price where they make zero profit, but also it's going to be the price where the ATC is at a minimum. And so our minimum ATC is 1383. You can see this. And actually there's a way for me to tell Excel to find it automatically. And that is to say, for this cell, give me the minimum, so min, out of that column. All right, so look at H5 through H14 and then give me the minimum value, and it's going to give me 1383. And for the shutdown price, we know it's going to be the minimum value of the AVC, and so I can tell it to calculate or show me the minimum of the values through G5 to G14, and it will give me 3. So my shutdown price is $3 and my break-even price is 1383. Okay, so when it comes to profit then, we know that the equation for profit is total revenue minus total cost. So what I'm going to do is use our symbol profit. Total revenue, total cost. And we know the total revenue is P times Q. And that's going to be reduced by fixed cost plus variable cost, or total cost. Okay. Okay. So for our profit calculation, what I'm going to do is take P times Q. I have my price over here, and I'm going to multiply it by whatever the quantity is for that row. And then I'm going to subtract my total cost. Okay. But again, I want to tell Excel to keep on using that price of 25, and so I'm going to have to put a $sign in front of B and in front of 7. Okay. And then hit enter, and it gives me my profit. And I can do the calculation all the way down, double-clicking on the corner. And yes, just to check, it keeps on using the price of 25, multiplying the quantities, subtracting the total cost. Okay. Okay. So we see the highest profit is achieved at a quantity of 8,000, and the highest profit is 78,000. Okay. And that, of course, is where the price, the marginal revenue, equals the marginal cost, without the marginal cost being greater than the marginal revenue. So when it comes to profit per unit, I'm going to take the profit. Actually, there's several ways of doing this. I can take profit and divide it by quantity. And that would give me the average profit, or profit per unit. But the way we learned it was actually just P minus the ATC, which should be the same calculation, same value. But again, I want to keep on using the price, so I'm going to use B7, $sign B, $sign 7, all the way down, and that gives me profits per unit. So I didn't check the decimal places, but let's just make sure. Yeah, okay. So we have highest profit per unit, 11.2, which occurs at 6,000. But then the highest total profit we see is occurring at a quantity of 8,000. Okay, so I hope this is helpful in trying to learn Excel. Maybe you can use it for other classes, and maybe you can use it